Today I'm going to give you a speech on Korea. Got all my visual aids from Google Images. You can look at many different sites on Google Images and retrieve different images on North Korea. Okay, can you imagine being at war for more than 60 years? You may not be aware, but the Korean War has never officially ended. Today, I will give you a brief summary of the history and current status on the Korean Peninsula. The three primary topics I would focus on today are the history of North Korea since World War II, the current national status, and the current threats to U.S. interests within East Asia. We must first look at the history of North Korea in order to understand the current situation. History of how Korea was split. In 1910, Korea was annexed by Japan to grow its empire. After World War II in 1945, Korea was liberated from Japan and divided into two zones at the 38th parallel. This division was meant to be temporary due to differences in opposed social systems. North backed the Soviet Union and the South backed by the U.S. In 1948, Kim Il-sung became the first leader in North Korea which established DPRK, separating from the Republic of Korea. In 1950, North Korea invaded South Korea, which ignited the Korean War. The armistice negotiations began in 1951, but hostilities continued. An Armistice Agreement was signed in 1953 and is still in effect to this day. Kim Jong-il became ruler of North Korea in 1994 after his father's death, Kim Il-sung. This is a map of North and South Korea and how they're split. North is green and the South is the orange background. This also shows where the DMZ, demilitarized zone, is between North and South Korea. Now that we know a brief history on North Korea, let's focus on this nation's current national situation. North Korea, as you know, is under communist control under the Korean Workers' Party. Its industry is operating at only a small fraction of capacity due to the lack of fuel, spare parts, and other inputs. Abduction and narcotics trade has been out of control since the Korean War. Food crisis is out of control. The U.S. was prepared to provide up to 500,000 tons of food, but North Korea declined assistance. Even though assistance was declined by the U.S., provided 170,000 tons of food. The economy is beyond repair due to excessive military spending and the regime having total control, which has hindered civilian development. The communists of North Korea are known to have sponsored terrorist acts and have made several statements condemning terrorism. The focus of the communist government has been to control their people and their development of their military. So now, let's talk about how this affects the U.S. interests. Here's a visual aid of the DMZ and the guards facing down each other every day at the DMZ. The threat to U.S. interests. South Korea is a valued trade partner with the United States. North Korea continues to resist free trade with the U.S. and puts a higher tariff on goods entering the U.S. North Korea continues to generate chemical weapons or weapons of mass destruction. Stockpile estimated to be 4,500 tons per year. Current intel suggests that there are currently 12 to 15 nuclear weapons already in their possession. Joined with their development in their launch vehicles, which represents a clear and present danger. U.S. would like to see a peaceful reunification of Korea but there are many hurdles. Denuclearization of North Korea, along with political and economic differences. North Korea is also not prepared to be under democratic government. Conducting long-range missile tests that have the capability to launch into Japan and Alaska, further threatening U.S. forces. North Korea is technically capable of launching a rocket in as little as 2 days. North Korea has one of the largest armies in the world. Its estimated force is about 1.2 million, and the bulk of its forces are along the DMZ. Given these facts, we know North Korea is well armed and wants only to retake South Korea under Communist Party. The United States forces have been defending South Korea to this day. I also wanted to share a picture of the Korean War Memorial with you so you could get an insight on what the Americans have gone through the Korean War. Today we have covered the history of Korea and how it is divided since World War II. How the countries have struggled to maintain peaceful existence after the Armistice Act during the Korean War. North Korea, being a communist party and poverty putting the country in ruins, threats posed the current regime such as development of weapons of mass destruction and missile tests. I hope this speech has shed some light on the conflict between these two nations, as well as providing you with a clear picture of why U.S. forces have been stationed there since World War II. Thank you.